Today, we are going to go into the topic of the art of conversation. Now, this is one that I kind of enjoyed looking into because I've always enjoyed conversating. I've always enjoyed either conversing, conversating. I don't know which one it is. Either way, you know what I'm trying to say. So, having good conversation is one of those soft skills that a lot of people skim over, but you don't realize just how much high impact it has on not just your relationship with people, whether it be friends, family members, associates, co-workers, neighbors, lovers, whoever, whomever it is. But this also has such a huge impact on that thing that I always mention to you all, your overall presentation package. And the reason why it has such a huge impact is because a conversation is, even with a stranger, a conversation is almost like a mini relationship. So when you take your time and you learn how to have a good conversation with someone, you are building a connection with that person. You're using communicate, you're using speech, you're using nonverbal cues, all these things to really help make a connection established between you and the person you're talking to so that the both of you walk away happy. Both of you walk away fulfilled. And that's a good feeling, it really is. But these things don't just happen automatically, they take practice. They take practice and they take studying so that you know what you're doing and you know how you're doing it. How many times have you been trying to get information to someone, having a conversation, or what you think was an argument was really just a battle of words? And we'll get into that in just a moment. And how many of you have been trying to get a certain message, get a certain bit of information, to get some certain data, whatever it is? Get that relayed to someone and you weren't able to do it. It is frustrating. It is frustrating. One of the most frustratings in the world is not being able to relay your message. It is because really, when you're trying to relay a message to someone, you're not just throwing out words and hoping they understand. You're not just slamming up against the wall and hoping something sticks. Every time you relay a message, every time you speak to someone, you are wrapping a little bit of you into those words, into that sentence, into that phrase, whatever it is that you're saying. You put a little bit of yourself into what it is that you're trying to say. And when that message doesn't go through and is not received the way that you want it to be received by the person that you're speaking to, it hurts a little bit. It hurts. So that's what we're going to be talking about here. We're going to be talking about the art of conversation, and we're going to get down to the general ins and outs of what a conversation really is, what it's all about, and how we can have the best conversations, how we can make the most out of connections with anyone we're speaking to. So I gave the analogy in my earlier video. The analogy was everyone typically approaches a conversation like the long line at the carnival or at the local fair. And everyone's in line waiting for their turn to step up and take that little ball and hit one of those bottles so that they can get one of those big old teddy bears, one of those big old stuffed animals. That's the way that a lot of people approach having a conversation. You're just waiting on your turn. You don't really, uh, uh, you don't really care too much about what the other person is saying. And the unfortunate thing is the other person, in a lot of cases, doesn't care about what you're saying. So it's just a whole lot of just not caring going on. And everyone's just waiting their turn just to take what they've got and throw it. Take what they got and throw it. Oh, okay, you finished? All right, my turn. Throw it. Take it, throw it. That's typically how people approach conversations. And that's not good. That's not good. It's almost like watching two prize fighters duke it out for the Golden Gloves. Everybody's trying to get their jab in, get their words in, get their words in, and duck the other people's words. Everybody's trying to do that. That's not the way that a conversation is supposed to be. A conversation is supposed to be like a dance. And I gave the examples earlier of like the rumba, the tango, the bachata, all these dances that are supposed to be a bit more on the sensual side of things. And the reason why a why I related a good conversation to those type of dances is because of the level of intimacy that goes into these dances. You're not just moving your hips and that's it. You're not just moving your body and that's it. You are moving in sync with the other person. You are moving along with the other person, and the other person is moving along with you. It's a much more mutual exchange, and both of you have this mutual understanding that we want to make this dance a good dance. This is good music, and we both want to move good. So we're both going to make sure that we agree on how we move. Are we going to go this way? Okay, we're going to go this way. Are we going to go this way? Okay, we're going to go this way. We're going to go back? Okay, yeah, we're going to go back. All right, we're going to go forward? Yeah, we're going to go forward. Is it time to spin? Yes. Okay, which way are we spinning? This way? Yep. Okay, let's go. Let's spin this way. I'm going to spin you around this way. And it's time to come together? Yes, time to come back together. And let's go this way. Okay, let's go that way. All of these things make for a great dance. Your conversation is supposed to be the same way. Your conversation is supposed to be the same way. When we're talking, we are supposed to be, okay, sharing ideas. Okay, this is what you're talking about. Okay, yeah, let's talk about that. Okay, good. All right, I see where you're going with this. Here's what I'm going to do to add to that. Is it okay that I go this way? All right, let's go this way. All right, so now I'm going to interject with this. Okay, yeah, all right, you're not ready for me to interject? That's okay. Go ahead, continue saying what you're going to say. That's okay. All right, now it's my turn, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm not too harsh with it. I'm going to give it to you in a way that you're going to actually accept and actually be glad to accept and actually be more willing to understand. And we're just going to continue this verbal dance. This verbal dance. A good conversation is a verbal dance. That's how I want you to look at having a conversation. Now, one of the things that I mentioned earlier was that we tend to say that we're having arguments, and really we're not having arguments. We're not having arguments. We're having verbal battles. We're going to verbal war. A lot of times, especially when it comes to relationships, couples and things like that, you think, oh man, you really going at it and all that. Oh, we're just having an argument. That's not an argument. That's not an argument. That is an emotional outburst that hasn't gone too far. Hopefully, it doesn't go too far. That's not an actual argument. So, what is an actual argument? Because an actual argument, there's an art form to it. It's an actual skill set. It's an actual thing. There's a such thing as a debate team, where you have teams of people, whether they be two different schools, two different organizations, whatever it is, and the topic presented, one person or one group presents their argument, and the next group, they say, okay, based off what you said, here's what we have to say. And then the next person, the next group has their rebuttal for that. And then the next group has their rebuttal for that. And back and forth and back and forth. And it's much more constructive, much more under control. Everybody walks away with something there. And in, with regards to like debate teams, there's actual winners versus what we call arguments outside of that realm. They're just they're just verbal jousting sessions, and the winner is whoever bleeds the least. Whoever bleeds the least, that's the winner. The loser is whoever bleeds the most because of the argument. The argument. So, what is an argument? Okay, so I've looked this up, and there are actual parts of an argument. Let's take a look at them. There are five parts. First part is your claim or your thesis, your reasoning behind your thesis, the evidence that support your reasoning and your thesis, the warrants, and your warrants are what links your claim and your thesis together. And then your counter argument or your rebuttal. And just a side note, the word rebuttal, this is where you get the word but from. You know how you say, oh man, yeah, that's okay, but, oh man, yeah, I understand it's time to go to bed, but, yeah, that I know I'm supposed to do this, but this is where you get the word but from. But is the short word of rebuttal. Your rebuttal, another word for that, is your counter argument. Hence the reason why you use the word but the way you use it. Oh man, I know it's time to go to bed. My counter argument is I don't want to go to bed. I still have energy. Oh man, I know. I'm supposed to merge over there, but I didn't. However, my counter argument is I didn't want to merge. I forgot to. So instead of saying that big word counter argument or rebuttal, you just say but. So there's your little tidbit of the day. But those are your five parts of an actual argument: your claim, your reasoning behind your claim or thesis, your evidence supporting the claim or thesis, your thing that links the claim and the thesis together, and your counter argument or rebuttal. Now, when's the last time anybody stopped before they were getting ready to get into this heated verbal battle and said, "Let me make sure I got my claim together. Here, let me not drop my pen." But when's the last time you were about to get into it with somebody and you said, "Hang on a second, let me get my pen, let me get my pad. Let me make sure I got my claim together. Let me make sure that I got my reasoning behind my thesis. And let me make sure I've got my evidence to support the claim and the thesis. And let me make sure I've got my warrants, which is the thing that links the claim and the thesis. And let me make sure that I've got any counter arguments or rebuttals that you may have ready for me that I haven't ready for you. Let me make sure I've got all together, and then me and you can go to war." When's the last time anybody did that? Exactly. So are we really having an argument when there's a certain disagreement and a certain emotional level that is infused within this disagreement? Not an argument. Now, yes, there may be some facts thrown out there in the middle. There may be a few supporting factors. There may be some things that connect the claim and the reasoning. However, as far as the actual structure of what an argument really is, most people either have zero idea that these factors of an argument even exist, or by that time, most folks are just so emotionally just out there that they don't even care. It's just time to take these words, formulate them into a battle axe, and use it. So that is what an argument actually is. So that's why I mentioned earlier that a lot of people think they're having arguments, but they're not having arguments. It's just an emotional, let me see, what can I say? It's like an emotional nuclear war. I just can't now anybody who's a war tactician or anything like that, you can clarify this for me. But I personally can't see any type of benefit behind a nuclear war. Because in my understanding, and maybe I'm understanding it correctly, but if one person sets off a nuke, I think that affects everybody. So there's no winner. There's no winner. And the reason why I picked that scenario is because that's kind of the same thing that happens when we get into what we call arguments, but really just verbal nuclear warfare, where we're all just throwing out words, we're all just saying all the worst things in the world, things that not only going to hurt the person that we're speaking to, but it's also going to hurt us as well, and it's also more importantly going to hurt the connection that you and the person that you're having this argument with. You're going to just nuke everything essentially, as well as your overall presentation package is getting nuked as well. So that's why I kind of give it that type of example. Because that's kind of what happens when you get into this verbal warfare instead of having an actual argument organized and ready. So as you can see, actually having a constructive argument takes effort. It takes effort, it takes work, and it takes self-control. Hence the reason why a lot of us don't have actual arguments. We just have verbal nuclear warfare. And nobody wins. Nobody comes out on top. Everybody hurts in that. So don't do that. So now we know the parts of an argument. But what are the parts of a conversation? So, parts of a conversation: active listening, turn taking, empathy, and what do I have there? Boy, my handwriting's kind of bad. Uh, Nonverbal cues. There we go. They say if your handwriting is bad, that's a good thing because your brain is working so fast that your hand can't keep up. I'm going to stick with that theory because I like that theory because that's calling me smart. So I'm going to stick with that. But there we are. We've got the different parts of conversation: active listening, taking turns, empathy, and nonverbal cues. Active listening. How do you actively listen? Well, I remember in a few videos ago, I was speaking about a young man that he had sent in a question asking how to attract a young lady at his workplace. And one of the things that I made mention of is making sure that when this young lady is speaking to you about things, that you actually listen. Don't just yeah, you're beautiful, baby. Oh yeah, baby. I mean, yeah. You so actually listening to what's being said, because when you actually listen to what's being said to you by, it doesn't have to be uh, your love interest. It can be anyone that you're speaking to. When you're actively listening to somebody, really paying attention to what it is that they're saying to you, understand that they are giving you a piece of them. Every time someone speaks to you, they are giving you a little piece of them. If they say, hello, it's raining outside, they don't just say, hello, it's raining outside. And that's it. Not like robots. When someone says to you, hey, it's raining outside, they're saying it to you in the manner that they interpret it, the manner in which they understand it, and the way that they know how to communicate based on their upbringing, based on the things that have influenced them all throughout their lives, the things that have affected how they are, who they are, what they are. All these things are what people give you when they say the simplest things to you, even a simple hello. Everyone's got different ways of saying hello, and everyone's got different reasons why for their different ways of saying hello. So, when someone's speaking to you, they're giving you a piece of them. Show the people that you are having an active conversation with, that you appreciate them offering a piece of themselves to you via a conversation. So, active listening means really listen, pay attention to the information that's coming to you. Now, in some instances, this may require you to have a certain level of understanding that some people may communicate in a way that you're not familiar with, and also some people may communicate in a way that you're not fond of. There are some people that naturally just come off more harshly. Their communication style is more direct, more curt, more straight to the point, emotionless. And if you don't have the skill set to be able to actively listen, you're going to misinterpret that and you're going to think that that person is verbally attacking you. But really, that's just them, that's just the way that they speak. So, actively listening is sometimes forgetting about all the things that the messenger brings to the table because some things you may not really be too fond of. And actually listening to the message. Listen to what's being said. Pay attention to what is being told to you. Actively listening. Because also, you have to remember, this is a conversation. This is a good back and forth. It's going to be difficult for there to be a good back and forth if when someone is giving you the forth, you're not doing the back part. If someone's giving you the information, you're not receiving it. When you are communicating, there's the sayer saying the thing, there's the message itself that the sayer is saying, and then there is the receiving. Now, all parties have a responsibility when it comes to saying things and receiving things. You have a responsibility to communicate what it is that you're communicating. Also, before you even get to the part where you're communicating, you have a responsibility to put it through a filter in your head to determine whether or not you should even be saying what it is that you're saying. And also consider the person that you're saying it to. If you're going to say this thing to this person, are you making sure that you've taken into account of who this person is, how this person understands things, how this person communicates? You've taken all that into consideration, so now it's your responsibility to make sure that what you're saying is digestible. What you're saying is digestible. And then it's the receiver's responsibility to be open in hearing what's being said and to properly digest it the way that it's meant to be digested. The way that it's meant to be digested versus the way that you just want to digest it. Now, the difference between the two comes down to understanding versus ego tripping. When it comes to understanding, if you're really understanding something, you're going to receive it the way it was intended to be received. And then go from there. Versus if you're going to ego trip, just say it the way I want it, throw it out. One version is people-centered. The other version is self-centered. Choose which way you go accordingly. So, active listening. All of that is wrapped up in active listening. Taking turns, actually being able to get across what it is that you want to say and give the person that you're speaking to a chance to respond. There have been so many times, so many conversations where valuable information has been missed. It got missed. Why? Because the one person was spending too much time talking, and did not give the other person the chance to relay valuable information. And now the person that was doing was talking. They had questions, they had concerns, they had worries, they had cares, they had fears, all these things. And there were a few sentences, a few words that were in the process of coming to that person where questions were answered, problems were solved, worries and cares and fears were called. Or it could have been, but it wasn't. Never got a chance to. Never got a chance to get a word in edgewise. So, give your information, give the words, give the phrases and things like that, but also take a break. Take a break. Check in to make sure that the person that you're supposed to be having this back and forth conversation with, make sure they don't have something to say as well. Because there's some people